And asylum seekers from 2 different detention centres have been transferred to Christmas Island in the past 24 hours to ease tension there after threats were made to staff. And it again raises questions about the unseen conditions inside Australia's detention centres. Currently, there are 6,403 people living in Australia's detention centres at an annual cost of more than $770 million. Asylum seekers will spend an average of 316 days locked behind bars, in conditions few Australians ever see. Australia's most troubled facility, the Villawood Detention Centre in Sydney's southwest, is where many of the most difficult to manage asylum seekers are sent. In the past, conditions within the facility have been criticised by the Human Rights and Equal Opportunities Commission, labelling Villawood as the most prison-like of all of Australia's detention centres. Over the years, it's led to a number of hunger strikes, riots and protests, with detainees taking their message to the rooftops, much to the frustration of the government.
This sort of behaviour is not acceptable and won't be tolerated.
So what's life like behind the barbed wire at Sydney's Villawood Detention Centre, where 343 detainees currently call home? Few people have seen inside the Villawood Detention Centre, let alone manage the place, but Peter Mitchell did until he left in 2001, and he's written a book about it titled Compassionate Bastard. Peter, what sort of directive are you given by the government when you're tasked with running a place like this?
Well, it's not too specific. The training method was called the deep end in my day. I'm not sure if it's the same way it is at the moment, but at the end of the day, it was learning on the job.
Now, when most of us see Villawood, it's on the news, it's someone protesting up on top of a roof. But what's it actually like inside?
Well, it's a pretty hard environment. There's various stages. It was only one of them, stage 1, was ever purpose-built. That was back in the 70s. There's dormitory-style accommodations with steel bunks bolted to the floor and, chairs in the dining room bolted down, that type of thing. And, you can't take all sorts of products into the dorms, and so young men there doing their underarms and toenails in the fishbowl sort of thing. So it's not a pleasant place to be.
Peter, in your experience, what are the types of things that kids in detention are being exposed to?
Thankfully, the children and the families are not held in detention and getting out into the community, which is a much better option. In my day, of course, there was a sort of family compound. It was terribly traumatic, and it was a great problem for us. If we had a purpose-built facility then, and if we had one now, I'm sure it'd be a lot easier to manage.
Mate, there's no doubt that you had a very, very tough job, but you also had some victories, I believe. Is it true that you got some guys to end a hunger strike by tempting them with the smell of a barbecue?
I just want to say all the hunger strikes are taken very seriously, but there would just happen to be a barbecue day, and a lot of these guys who'd been, talking about a longer protest ended up, joining the line for onions and sausages. So that's the sort of...
Peter, I have to admit, when I think of the sort of person that would be running a facility like this, I imagine a real tough nut with probably little compassion, but you don't seem like that at all. Is that one of the reasons you had to leave, that it just all became too much?
Yeah, well, I was a songwriter and a musician, and I had to adjust my way of doing business to have a job like that. Don't get me wrong, I felt we did some good work. It was a tough job, but it was a valuable job to do it compassionately. But after a while, it became harder to be a depriver of liberty, and I wanted to be more of a writer and get back to my music.
Peter, there are a lot of firm views about immigration out there, but you've actually witnessed this, you've seen it firsthand. What do you think the answer is?
There is no simple answer to this, and I think that we need to have international cooperation. But we just can't afford, and I can see why this is a very important thing for the government at the moment, we can't afford any more deaths at sea. And but for those who do make it here, we need to be more compassionate, and community detention is a model that I think we need to explore more.
Well, it's been great to chat to you tonight, Peter, and we all look forward to reading your book.
Thank you very much.